The man who now runs one of Cincinnati's key startup organizations wants the digital giants that rely on our big corporations like Procter & Gamble and Kroger to come to the table. In this week's Business Courier centerpiece, Pete Blackshaw is sending a message to Silicon Valley. The Centrifuge CEO just wrapped up his first week on the job and wasted no time saying the Silicon Valley giants like Google and Facebook need to open up shop in Cincinnati. Centrifuge is a startup resource and connector for young tech companies. As co-founder of Procter & Gamble's first digital division before leaving later to create his own startup, Blackshaw has a foot in both worlds.
And I think there's a appetite with the big companies to work with the startups that we always wanted back in 15 years ago when I was doing a startup, but it was a much harder scenario to make real. Now I think there's a real model in place where the big companies and the small companies can work together, and they desperately need each other in this type of environment.
Blackshaw most recently headed up digital and social media for Nestle and the company's world headquarters in Switzerland. So why did Blackshaw come back to Cincinnati to take on this role after former Centrifuge CEO Wendy Lee stepped down? Business Courier reporter Andy Brownfield asked him that question and more, and joins Business Courier editor Rob Dawmeyer in the studio to tell us more. Rob and Andy.
Thanks, Peg. Andy, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm not saying that Pete Blackshaw had a cushy job in Switzerland, but he was in Switzerland working for Nestle at a pretty high level. Why did he leave that gig and come back to Cincinnati, you think?
You know, he described that job to me as the best job in the world. And so it had to be something pretty strong to pull him back here. He said that he makes it back to Cincinnati every now and then. He was at South by Southwest giving a keynote and came back to visit some friends, and they were telling him, as you do with out-of-town friends, when are you coming back? What will make you come back here? And he kind of offhand said, well, the Centrifuge organization looks good, and little did he know the job would become available in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Wendy Lee, the former CEO, just recently left, and she did a lot. She was very outspoken. She was very visible. She got some things done really for Centrifuge and for the city. When you think about Pete Blackshaw, when you talk to him, what do you think his priorities are going to be when he really gets into this job?
Well, a couple big things he emphasized were, one, letting the rest of the world know what Cincinnati's right-to-win pillars are. Meaning, why does Cincinnati deserve to be a place that has great startups and is worthy of attention from other companies, from big companies, from venture capitalists outside of this region who traditionally would look on the coasts? Another big initiative of his, as was mentioned, is that he wants to see those tech giants on the coast, like Amazon or Google or Facebook, open up shop here in Cincinnati.
And that's obviously to feed off of our Procter & Gamble, Kroger, some of our big companies. Instead, I think now what are a lot of these firms will have like ancillary offices, Chicago or other parts of the Midwest. Let me ask you one more question. He mentions, and Peg mentioned this too, that there is a pretty good system of entrepreneurs here. Centrifuge has helped with that. But what is the current state of tech talent in Cincinnati? I mean, is it healthy?
Absolutely. We've got a wealth of very talented individuals. We've got a huge creative industry that's sprung up around Procter & Gamble and Kroger. And with any market, there is a huge need for jobs, and maybe not always enough people to fill them. But Blackshaw said there's no reason that we can't do things to pull in those talent from elsewhere, or even outsource some projects to remotely.
Right. Well, it's a great Q&A with Pete, and should be excited to see what he does when he gets his feet on the ground here. And thanks for being here, Andy.
Absolutely.